Hi everybody, it's Michelle Gill-Martin, and today we are doing the Digital Dealer exclusive Kimberbell Hello Spring Round Pillow. Really fun project. We're going to be in class doing the one that sews out in the 8x10 hoop, but if you don't have a hoop that's an 8x10, your machine doesn't have that big of a field, you'll be doing the 5x7 version. So I am just going through and seeing, we have some colors that we're going to need here. So I'm looking at dark pink, light pink, peach. Slide those over. And then I need a dark green, medium green, and light green. So here's dark green, medium green. And where's my light green? I have to grab that one. A blue green, a dark blue, a light blue. Oh, I had it. There we go. Here's my dark green, medium green, light green, blue green, dark blue, light blue, and purple. These are the flower colors in the front for the embroidery design. You will also need some white sewing thread. This is a 4-part project, and part of it requires that you sew. So I have some white thread and about a half a bobbin wound with white. I don't suspect I'll need more than that. You'll also need a bobbin wound with wash away thread. So this is our vanish thread. And here at the store, just so that we don't get it mixed up with the other stuff, we put the ones, the bobbins that are wound with the disappearing or vanishing thread, we put them in a little bag labeled vanish, but you'll need one of these. It's really a fun part of your project where some of the flowers, you're going to use the wash away thread in the bobbin. And when you get done sewing, you're going to wet that thread and you'll have like a fringy look on your flowers in the front. It's really very pretty technique. So we'll need that. You'll also need, if you got a kit from A1, everything you need is in your kit. So since we're doing the 8x12 size, we have a 9x9 square of our light fabric. And we also have a piece of SF101 cut to that will be fusing to the back for our embroidery. You have a piece of medium cutaway stabilizer that's big enough to fit your 8x12 hoop. You have 2 pieces of this border fabric and back fabric. So the border fabric is 3x38 inches. That's going to go around the outside or make this part of the pillow. And then you have 2 pieces, 7.5x12. These are going to be the back of your pillow and the zipper that's going to go down the center of that so that you can get your round pillow form in there. And here's your round pillow form. These are one of those I call them shrink to fits. So it's like a shrinky dink when it's in the package. And once you open the package, the air gets to the pillow and puffs it up for you. So that's your kit. In addition to that, you will need probably some clips or some pins, either or will work, a pair of tweezers, and some cotton swabs and some fabric starch. So for me, I'll be using, when it comes time to get rid of my vanish thread, I like to use a makeup sponge. I usually buy the 100 bag of the little disposable makeup sponges, and then I can just get the makeup sponge wet and just touch it where I want it to dissolve. So that way I don't have to actually spray water on the back of my embroidery design. So that's how I'll be showing it later on in our video when it comes time to do that part of the process. And then you will also need, we don't have the lace zippers for this project. We have a traditional zipper since it's on the back and no one will ever see it. So I will be adjusting our sewing instructions accordingly to accommodate a standard zipper. And for that, I like the Brother flat or straight zipper foot, which I will grab in a moment. And I also like 1/8 of an inch double-sided basting tape. Makes it easy for you to get a very perfect zipper installation. You'll also need your embroidery design. We are doing, again, in class, we're doing the 8x12. If you don't have an 8x12 capability on your machine, then you're going to be doing the 5x7. So 5x7 will look like this, 8x12 will look like this. All right, I found my zipper feet, so I wanted to explain a little bit about those. So this is traditionally the zipper foot that would come with your machine. And what I dislike about this is two things. First of all, you have to pop it off and pop it back on to use one or the other side of the zipper foot. Also, this part back here is kind of wide, so it's hard for you to get really close to the zipper teeth, or within a 1/8 of an inch maybe area. These are two of the zipper feet that are optional. This one is made by Baby Lock. This one's made by Brother. They both work pretty well. I prefer this one only because it's straighter and flatter and a little bit thicker, but the edge of the foot, here's why I love it. You can put the edge of your foot, so if you have the fabric there, you can put the edge of the foot right up against the teeth and move the needle over a little bit, so you've got like a perfect, like 1/8 of an inch away from the zipper. Or if you're following this little tiny line here that's usually imprinted on the zipper, you can actually do that as well. By just moving away a little bit from it. I just like it better than this is just like way out there. So I can't really get as close to the actual zipper. My stitches on this one are going to be more out in here. So that's why I kind of prefer this. This one also works quite well. You just have to move it away a little bit because, up against it, you're not going to be able to, you're going to sew the fabric so close to the zipper teeth that you won't be able to unzip it. So, and both of these, you'll notice, do not have that double bar. Either one of these, you just use the needle mirror image. So you just mirror image it to one side or the other. You don't have to take it off. So you can do one side, put the fabric on the other side, and instead of having to take the foot off and move it to the other side, you just push your mirror image button and move your needle over. So it maintains an equal distance on each side. So that's kind of why I like these kind better than this one. This by far being my favorite. And if you'll notice that this one has a little bit of a Teflon coating just right underneath the ski part of it. This one is an anti-stick or non-stick. The entire foot is. So if you wanted to use it for like leather or suede or something like that, or vinyl or anything like that, you have a complete non-stick surface. So that's why I love those zipper feet. All right, so we're ready to get stitching here. I actually did a little bit of prep work ahead of time. So if you will just look over at page 9 in your instructions, I took my smaller piece. Now all of the fabric got a coat of Best Press on it, just to kind of make everything nice and pretty. And so I did just this first part, which was 1, 2, and 3, to use the sewing machine to sew those two short ends together. And then I pressed the seam open. This is going to end up being our little ruffle around the outside of our pillow. I used my clapper when I pressed this, so I have a really nice flat seam, especially on the outside. And then I skipped over to the last part of our stitching here, where we're going to do the zipper. And on page 10, at part 3, attaching the lace zipper, we're going to starch and press the two back fabrics. So, and I did the 1/4 inch, just as going to be the 1/4 inch that sits on top of the zipper on both sides, both long edges of the two back pieces. So that's, I'm going to put these away for later. And then I prepped my piece of fabric that's going to have my flowers on it. So it got a coat of Best Press on it. And then it's backed with SF101. And my cutaway stabilizer is in my hoop. So I have in my machine right now, I have a embroidery bobbin, and I have a 7511 anti-glue embroidery needle. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, I am on the Luminaire today, but no matter what machine you're on, go ahead and access your embroidery files. So for me, I actually have the embroidery file on a USB that just has that embroidery file on it. Yours might be the Kimberbell dealer digital that came with, or you might have gotten, I think actually you get yours in the mail as well. You get yours emailed. So you might be in the same situation. So I'm going to access the USB that I have my design on, and you should be doing the one that says 8 by 12. If you don't have that size hoop, then you're going to do the one that says 5 by 7. Select the design and select set. And I can see all of these different thread colors here. So I have that I actually already pre-selected. But for me, I'm going to go ahead and guide you through using your instructions to use that as a key guide for your embroidery. So most embroidery machines at the top or the side somewhere will give you a spool of thread indicator. And then this is the total number of thread changes. Not necessarily the total number of colors, but the total number of times you'll change the thread, and we haven't started yet. So this allows you to kind of compare what you have in your directions to the color stop you should be on your machine. And let's see how fast we're going. I don't always go full speed, so I'll just go about 800 today. You can go full speed if you want, if you're comfortable with that. We have a total of 30,000 stitches to stitch, and it's 7.77 by 7.77. So I'm going to go ahead and load my embroidery bobbin into the machine. I will go ahead and refer to my directions now for my very first color stop. All right, so rather than use just the colors that are on my screen, I'm going to be using my guide sheet here to access the colors. Now, there's 3 different greens. So for each of the different greens, there's a little bit of a different symbol on it. So the dark green has the slash, the medium green has the dot, the light green has the arrow. And it's the same with the dark pink, light pink, and peach. Slash, arrow, dot. The rest of them, the dark blue and the light blue are pretty evident as to which color is which. But sometimes when you're working with colors that are really close together, like the different shades of green, it's easy to kind of mistake one for the other. So when I turn to my opening page here, here's what it's actually divided. The stitch is into sections. So we have leaves and stems, petals. So it actually kind of gives you a little diagram here as to which is which. So if I look at 5 and 4, where it says flower petals 4 and 5, I can see 5 is the lighter one, 4 is the darker pink. But also over here, this is what I'm going to refer to. So as I begin to sew, I'll see these little indicators here. So for this one, this is color stop 3. So the embroidery machine, the 3rd color stop, and the green is the darker green because it has the slash in it. The next one down here is the lighter one, or the lighter green because it has the arrow in it. The other one is the medium green. So that kind of keeps me on track using the right colors. When you see something really like this, it says stitch the center tack down trimming line. I just use whatever color is like the next one in line, because that means you're not even going to see this anyway. So, but in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use the light blue because of the polka dots on the fabric, because that'll give me something I can follow as well when I'm stitching the light blue polka dot fabric on later. So that's how I'm going to start. So I've got the file. I'm going to do my placement line, place the center of my fabric, and do my tack down line. So this is color stop 1, color stop 2. I'm going to do those in light blue, and then I'll be changing to the dark green. All right, so I'm going to run color stop number 1, which is my placement line. If you're following along in your directions, we are on step number 4 on page 7, which is to stitch my placement lines down. And then I'm going to position my fabric, and you can do it in a number of different ways. I like to spray base. I'm not a huge fan of tape. I use tape when I have to, but if I can just spray baste, it's much faster and much easier. So I'm going to go ahead and spray baste mine. right, I'm gonna whip around to the table for just a second. So I have a little tiny dime tent here, which is great for spray basting. And I have some of the Ganold KK100. When you spray baste, you don't need a lot. So the spray baste, the words in there are based, B-A-S-T-E. And anything else, when you baste it, it's not necessarily a stitch that's ever going to stay there. It's just to kind of hold something in place. So think of your spray baste as the same thing. Just give it a little bit. It just needs to hold it in place till it tacks it down. It doesn't have to be so sticky that it gums up your needle. So this is just, that's all I'm gonna need to hold this in place, just to do the tack down. All right, so I'm just gonna loosen my hoop a little bit, move it forward, and go ahead and make sure I cover that area well. All right, so I'm gonna slide my hoop back on, and then I'm gonna run that that tack down stitch for this, and I'll just hold it, you know, keep an eye on it. All right. All right, so we are now on step number 7. We're still on page 7. Color stop number 3. So I'm going to take my light blue off, and I'm going to use my dark green. And I have the colors kind of stacked in order on the table there for me behind me, mainly because the dark green, I'm like, oh, I forgot a green, and I didn't forget a green. It was there all the time. All right, so here's my dark green. That one's going to go on now. This one has a 4-minute stitch out. In between each color, I will go ahead and let it run a little bit for it to start, and then I'm going to pause until the next color change. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera until it's time to change to the next color. All right, so I have finished the first color stop, or actually it's color stop 3. So now I'm on color stop 4, which is the light green. And I know that because the light green has the arrow. So I'm going to go ahead and get my light green, and that will go on next. And this one is actually a 7-minute sew out, so I will go ahead and start it, and then we'll pause the camera so that you don't have to just watch the embroidery machine going up and down for the whole time. Again, we're on page 7, color stop number 4, the leaves and stems 2. right, I'm going to go ahead and pause until we're ready for the next one. All right, so our next color stop is color stop number 5. So if I look at number 5 on my book here, I can see that that's the medium green. So I'm going to go ahead and change it out to the medium green, and that one is going to run for 12 minutes. So I've got my light green out, going for my medium green. There we go. And again, I will let it run for just a little bit, and then I'm going to stop so you're not watching the needle go up and down for 12 minutes. We are still on page 7. We are on step number 9, color stop number 5. All right, so we are on color stop number 6, which is step number 10, and that color stop is light blue. And here we go. This one sews for 4 minutes. All right, I'm getting ready to sew color stop number 7, which is the dark pink. So I'm going to get that changed. All right, so here we go. Color stop number 7. We are still on page 7, step number 11, and it's the dark pink. Right about now is when I'm going to want to check a little bit for where I might need to do some snipping. Only because I don't want anything to sew on top of it and then have to try to get it out later. Got a couple of jumps here. I'll take care of those. Little piece of thread here. Take care of that. Everything else looks pretty good. And I am moving on to color stop number 8, which means I am almost done with page 7. So that is the lighter pink indicated by the arrow inside the square, the color square. All right, we're done with the pink. Go ahead and turn the page to page 8. And now the next one is going to be, I think, the light green. So we are on step 13, color stop 9, light green. Double check if you want right here on your machine. It says step color stop 9 out of 17. So I'm going to go ahead and put on that light green thread again. This is going to do the flowers right in here, the bottom of the flowers. This one's only going to take a minute to sew, so we'll just let it run. All right, so next color stop is the blue green. And I have this color in my blue green, for my blue green. If you're using the glide thread colors, your thread colors might be just a little bit different. It's all good. All right, this one's going to run for 5 minutes. All right, our next color stop 11, is page 8, step 15. It's the dark blue flowers. And you'll note that if you're doing the 8 by 12 size, the centers of the other flowers are also going to be stitched with this step. So I'm going to grab my dark blue here. Here we go. This is color stop number 11, step number 15 on page 8. I'll just snip that little guy right now, get it out of there.
Okay, do you think I should consider? Yes. Okay. Okay.
All right, we are now on color stop 12. So let's take a moment and just take a peek at our directions. So we're going to sew out color stop 12 with the peach colored thread. And then color stop 13 does not require a color change to the thread. Color 13 is when we actually change to the water soluble thread or a visible color. So what that means is this is where we're going to begin to make our fringe flowers. So it's going to be these two colors that we leave the water soluble thread or a visible color in. And then on step 19, we'll be changing back to our regular neutral color. In this case, white. All right. So, but there isn't a color change here. So we're going to do this one first because we're on 16. If you look at your machine, we're on color stop 12. And then we're going to do the next one where we change. You can also do this with just a visible thread. So if you don't have water soluble thread that you can wind on a bobbin, you can just wind some bright color that you can see, like a bright yellow, bright red or something, because those are the stitches that you're going to be trimming from the back to release the peach color from the front so it can be more of a fluffy flower and three-dimensional. All right, so I am going to replace my dark blue with the peach color. And we're going to do some more stitching. All right, so we finished the peach colored flowers down here, and now we are on color stop 13. So let's take a look at one more time, and now is when we're going to change the bobbin thread to a water soluble thread or visible color. So I'm going to pull my hoop off, slide it over, and change this out. So remember, if you don't have water soluble thread, you can still just use like a pre-wound bobbin in a other color than what you've been using for everything else, so that you know what threads you're going to clip. In this case, I'm just going to stitch. So Number 13 is still the same color, so here we go. You can see that these stitches are really long stitches, longer than you normally would have. You know, almost too long for a satin stitch. Makes it kind of loopy. So when we remove the invisible thread, or if we clip those stitches in there, then it's going to be a little fringy flower, which is going to be kind of cute. All right, so the next one we're still leaving in. We're on color stop 14, so color stop 14 is the purple. But we're still leaving that bobbin in. So I'm going to just go ahead and take the peach off for right now, and we'll pop the purple on. Uh-oh. Looks like I ran out of thread there. And it didn't tell me. That's so odd. Except for I don't have a whole flower. I just have a half a flower. So let me pull that out. No, I do still have bobbin thread in there. That's weird. All right, let me just back up here. There we go. There's the rest of my flower. All right, now we're going to change back to our regular bobbin that we were using before. So now we are on color stop 15. Color stop 15 is still the purple thread. It's just we should now have a regular bobbin in our machine. This is our tack down line for the center of our flower, and to tack down the what's going to be fringe, so it doesn't just like all fall out. And 16 is the peach color again. And then we're left with blue, and our stitching part, our embroidery part, will be done. All right, we're on the last embroidery part. We're going to put some light blue back on and finish that last color stop for the design. We're not done. I think we still have I guess we are. It's 17 out of 17, so I guess we are done after this. I was thinking it was going to go around one more time, but I guess not. Oops, wrong button. All right, our embroidery's done. I'm going to pull it out of the hoop, and then I don't have a makeup sponge with me, so I'm going to do it the traditional way by wetting the back of my flowers here to dissolve the invisible thread or the vanishing thread. And then you can use a Q-tip to fluff your thread. I'm going to use the back of the seam ripper, has kind of a rubbery top on it, and that'll bring it up as well. All right, so I went ahead and got the back of this where our fringe is pretty wet. And you can see that as I move my my seam ripper, that all of these little pieces of vanishing thread are now gone, and I have kind of a ridge in there. So if I actually turn it over and use this little rubber part of my seam ripper, then I can kind of fluff it so that it looks, oh, look at how cute that is. Get a little fluffy flower there. Let's see what the back looks like. Oh, that's coming out there pretty good. And just fluff. All right, so we got our fluffy flowers here. How cute are those? All right, so I'm going to press this around the outside edges here. And then I am going to trim the fabric on the trimming line stitched in step 6. So I'm going to guess that's the outside line. The inside line is probably my stitching line. Yep, this is my trimming line right here. And if I turn it over, you'll see that this will be my trimming line here, and then this inside line will be my stitching line. All right, I'm gonna do that and move on to changing out to my sewing machine foot. All right, I am trimmed and I am fluffed and I have pressed. And I'm just gonna set this aside for now while I begin working on the other stuff. This is so cute. And it can dry the rest of the way. All right, so I already started some of my prep work in the beginning. So I'm gonna grab my border to the pillow center. And I've already done this part. But if you haven't, go ahead and do that. You're gonna sew the narrow sides together. and then press it open. And now that I've done that, I'm going to turn it right side out. And I am going to sew a line of basting stitch along one edge of the border, 1/4 of an inch from the edge. It says back stitch at the beginning of the stitching only, leaving the tail long. And that's so that we can actually pull. And gather. So it's up to you. If you're doing a small one, it may be not quite so much. You might want to do it from like side to side so that you have 2 rows to pull, from. The big one doesn't have a very wide border, so I'm just going to go ahead and do the 1/4 inch. And I'm going to go ahead and have the basting stitch be as long as I can get it, and I think it's about a 5.
If she's picking up a machine.
All right, so I'm going to be doing 2 rows of basting stitches. I'm going to be doing a back stitch, or a fixed stitch, actually, a stitch in place at the very end so that I just have to pull one way. I have the machine set up where the needle is in the 5.5 left-right shift position so that the edge of my foot and this position is a 1/4 inch seam. So, and I'm going to start right where my seam line is, and I'm just going to hold this down and just tack it down. All right, so my stitch length is set at 5.5, so it'll give me a really big stitch length that I can gather with, but still be short enough that it'll hold. So I'm just going to go ahead and start stitching. And you can see if I actually held it in the back, I could probably start gathering it. The big stitches are it goes so fast it's kind of hard almost to keep it straight. All right, so when I get to the other end, do not push the thread cutter. You have to have enough thread to be able to pull to gather. So since I tied off with the first one, then the second one, oops, I'm gonna cut this off here. So then the second one, when you finish, needs to have the tails you can pull. So I'm going to come almost all the way. I just don't want to cross over where I tied off, but I'm going to just come, and then I'm going to do needle up, foot up, and pull out and cut off, leaving quite a long tail. All right, so that's what that looks like up close. I actually just kind of got inside just a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go around a second time, and this time, so I believe, what is my seam allowance? Let me look. So I only have a 1/4 inch seam allowance when I'm stitching it to the pillow. So that means I am going to come to the inside this way. Oops, and again, this one's going to get cut off. I'm just going to stitch in place. Let me get that out of the way, because those are my tails. I'm going to put the foot down, and this time I'm going to go all the way over to 7. So it'll be right on the edge there. And again, this is just going to be a stitch in place. And go. So it's going to give me 2 parallel rows to be able to gather with. All right, I'm coming back around. So this one is going to be my pulls from the first row of stitching that I did. So I want to make sure I keep those out of the way. This is the second one I did, and I want to clip those just so that I know what not to pull. Okay, so these two need to be out of the way here, and then I'll just trim this on the bottom. All right, get those extra threads out of the way. And then just like the previous row, I want to come all the way over to where I started, maybe just offset it a little bit. Raise the needle up, pull out, leaving myself a nice tail to pull. All right, so I've done my gathering bit. Let's go see what we're doing next. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna gather this piece to where it fits around our center here. So one of the things that I find really helpful when taking a larger piece and gathering it to meet a smaller piece is to mark my quarter markings. So I'm going to be pinning like this. So I'm going to be wanting to make my quarter marks on the wrong side of my ruffle fabric and the right side of my my panel here that I embroidered. So I'm just going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to make this little quarter mark with an erasable marker. And if you make it within the 1/4 inch seam allowance, you're free and clear. And then I'm going to bring those two marks together and mark the other two sides. So we're going to put a mark here, and we're going to put a mark here. All right, so we have our quarter markings marked on this fabric. So now, before I gather this, I want to do my quarter markings on the wrong side of this fabric. So one's kind of easy peasy. It's my seam line over here. So then I'll do my quarter markings over here. And then I'm going to take this quarter marking and put it right with that seam. And then I can mark the other edges. You can also do a finger press where you just kind of make a mark there with your fingernails as far as the press. But I really want to see where I'm going. So this actually helps you get the gathers kind of even. So you have an even amount of floof on each, in each section. So I'm going to start by grabbing my bottom threads here and giving them a pull. And I'm going to go ahead and start smoothing that all the way over and all the way around to where my tie-offs are. And you can do this with clips. You can do it with pins when you pin it together. It's up to you. I have a bunch of clips here, so I probably use the clips today. And don't worry, it's cotton fabric. You're going to get a little bit of this kind of fraying on it. Just kind of trim the fraying, but don't trim your pull strings because that would just be sad. I'm going to get this all the way over to the end here. All right. All right. So here's one mark and here's the other mark. So I know this has to fit within there. So it's not going to take as much gathering as you might think, but we want to make it somewhat balanced. All right, so let's see. Gonna start right there. Can't clip my pull strings yet. And then this has to go. Where's my first mark? Here's my quarter mark. This is going to go here. So you can see I have a little bit too much gathering there, but that's okay. I'm going to clip it, and I'm going to clip over the gathers so that the clip itself isn't holding the gathers, and then that way I can kind of ease some of those out and around. There we go. All right. All right, so I'm going to continue to do this for the remaining 3 quarters. So I can look for my, where's my other next marking?
Yes. I believe they're all white as well.
Here's my other marking, and this one goes here. So again, this clip I'm putting so it actually is over the top of the gather so that I can still move fabric around and move the gathering thread around, because it's a little bit too much here. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pause while I pin the rest of this. All right. When you get to the other end and you have gathered as much as you want to gather it, these are the threads I've been pulling. These are the other sides. If you give the other side a little tug, it'll help keep that from slipping on you. It's kind of funny how that works. Once you've started pulling in the bobbin thread, if you pull from the top thread, it kind of locks it in. So that way it'll kind of stay in place for you. So I'm superstitious. I never cut my pull threads until everything's all stitched on. So this is a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I have switched out the sewing machine from my embroidery foot to my sewing foot, my stitching foot, and my actual sewing thread. So we're going to take this over and we're going to sew all the way around at 1/4 inch. Now watch as you sew. You might find that a stiletto is handy for this, because you have to be, you're going over a lot of these little pull puckers, I guess, is, if, for lack of a better word, where you gathered. So we want to not push them, we want to go over them. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a stiletto. All right. I moved my needle position to 5.0. So 5.50 with the edge of my J foot is a perfect 1/4 inch. I want to make sure that I get all of these lines of stitching in. So I'm just going to air, maybe I'll just do 5.25. I'm going to air just a little bit so that I can actually keep all of this covered, this stitching covered. I'm going to stick that foot in there, put my foot down, and I've reduced down to a 2.5 stitch length. I'm going to start with a fixed stitch. And again, I'll trim all of these threads that I use to gather with. I'll trim those after I have secured this down, and I know for positively will not need them for anything else. That nothing slipped, nothing, you know, I don't come to a place where I need to bring gathering in, or I just didn't catch it. Take your time. You're sewing in a circle, but you can do it.
I called the charter, Spectrum Business, which is who we have our internet through, and they were like, the problem's not on our end. Like, we can see your modem, we can see your, you know, we can see your router, like, the problem's on your end. So, quite frankly, I don't know if that's totally true or not, because they've said that before, and the problem ended up still being them. But to make sure there were no issues, I actually went and bought a new Ethernet cable, and then when the Ethernet cable didn't fix it, I basically ran the factory reset. I was like, I'll do all this stuff, and then when they call me, or when I call them and they go, well, the problem is mine, it's yours, I can say, no, it's not. Like, I've already reset it. The problem's on me.
See, just little tiny, just hang in there, just go slow. I know that long piece of thread is kind of a pain, but I'm not cutting it off yet. Almost though.
Everything was plugged in. I unplugged everything and I added it again, and it never went.
All right, almost coming to the end here. All right, so now when you open that up, look at how pretty. So I'm just looking, so there's a couple places where my stitching wasn't quite, my gathering was maybe different, and I've got a few areas where some of my gathering threads are showing. So now if I want to, I can take those gathering threads and I can pull them all the way out. It wouldn't take too much at this point to pull them out. Just keep pulling. Or you can simply go around to the front of your of the fabric and then just pluck out the ones that are in the way that you can see. Or if it doesn't bother you, just leave them. It's fine. Not going to hurt anything. Nobody's going to look at your pillow and go, "Woo, you missed your stitches there." All right, so I am going to go ahead and give this a press. And I will meet you back here. Actually, I'll meet you back at the table because we're going to prep to do our zipper. Okay. In this part, we're going to be working on part 3, which is attaching the zipper. So if you have a lace Kimberbell zipper that you want to use, you're going to follow the directions here. Because those ones end up being on top of the folded fabric. If you're using a kit from A1, then you have a regular zipper. So that's how we're going to do this. So I have done this, so it's the easiest zipper I promise you'll ever do. I already pre-folded my 1/4 inch on each of my 2 panels. And let's get a visual of how it's supposed to look. Your zipper pull should always close on the left, open to the right. So I split my zipper in half and I made a mark there, and I have 1/8 inch basting tape at the very, very edge. And I did the same thing here. I made a half mark for my, my pieces. Now, I'm gonna zoom in on the zipper itself. Right. Do you see this little line right here? We're gonna line the edge of the fabric up against that line. So that's how we're gonna actually position it, so that we can position it really straight by just positioning the fold against that line. All right, so I'm gonna zoom out a little bit again, and I have positioned the basting tape to help me keep both pieces of fabric attached to the zipper and in position without having pins or clips, because sometimes with pins or clips things go south when you pull the pins out. So for the basting tape, I'm just gonna slip my stiletto underneath and grab the top of it out. And I didn't have it go all the way across from end to end. I just had a pretty good sized piece on each side. And I'm just gonna do one side at a time. If it were me at home, I'd tape them both on and do them both at the same time, but we'll just do them one at a time. All right, so I'm looking to line up the folded edge, match the center mark, line up the folded edge right on that. It's almost like the zipper gave you a positioning line, because it did give you a positioning line. So that side's down. Just gonna walk this side across. Same thing, right across and right on the line. Okay, so here we are. A little off here, let's see. All right, so I'm going to take this over the sewing machine and I'm going to sew this. Again, this one, there's the folded edge. If you are doing the lace zipper, if you have a Kimberbell lace zipper, or if you just want your regular zipper on the top of your fabric, you can follow the directions that are in your guide. So I'm going to take this over the sewing machine right now and stitch it. All right, I'm going to change out to my little square toed zipper foot here. And I want to position the edge of the zipper foot right on the edge of my fabric. And then let's see what I want to do with my needle position. I have my needle position all the way to the left, and then I'm just going to mirror image. And that way, when my needle comes down, it's going to sew right on the edge of that fabric. So let's have a 2.5, and then let's go. I'm just keeping my eyes on the edge of my zipper foot, and I'm keeping the edge of that zipper foot right at the edge of my fabric here. And you could always, if you didn't want quite this much space, I don't mind for home deck projects like pillows, things like that. I don't mind having a bit of space there. This is obviously not the same zipper installation I would do for a garment, but this does make it kind of quick and easy. And so that first one is done. So now what I'm going to do is take this back to my my table over there and position the other side. All right, here's what's nice about this one. So I have the zipper on the other side now. And rather than having to take my foot off, all I have to do is mirror image. And so I can actually go the same direction on both sides of the zipper, which, you know, it seems like kind of a funny, you know, little thing. But if I sew one side of my zipper going this way and the other side going this way, then I could be actually tweaking the fabric a little bit. This way, the fabric is going in the same direction or was stitched down in the same direction on both sides. I bet that was the easiest zipper you'd ever installed, huh? Again, it's a great home deck application, which is kind of what we're doing here. Maybe not so much for, you know, for a garment, but definitely for home deck. That's a beautifully inserted straight zipper. All right, let's see what happens next. Okay, first of all, I am going to press this so that I can get rid of my marks. Make sure everything's all nice and flat. All right, let's see what we have left. So there's no tape for us to remove because we didn't need it. So now we have the pillow back, which is this is right side up on a flat surface, and we're going to place the pillow front right side down, centered on the top of the pillow back. We do have to remember, however, to have the zipper pull be inside when we get done stitching. All right. So here's this. I'm going to set this down on top of it. And for this, I think I likely will actually pin. All right, so it looks like it wants me quarter-inch seam allowance, remove pins. Wants me to kind of flatten all of this out to the best of my ability, although that's a lot of pillow to kind of flatten out. All right, I'm going to grab some pins over here.
Called you guys.
All right. I always work in quarters. So right now this doesn't have to be a perfectly equal quarter, but I'm still working in quarters. This is okay. I can just run over this as it is over here. However, when I get over to that other side, I have to make sure I'm going to pull the mat out so I can just use the pins. All right, so I have pins all the way around, and I have pushed the zipper open a little bit and pinned it together here. I like to pin it a little closer. Let's see here. All right, that's better. So now I'm going to go all the way around with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Please don't forget to open your zipper because it will be very sad you won't get a pillow in it. So open your zipper enough that you can get your hand in there to turn it right side up. I'm going to go all the way around with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just do my 1/4 inch seam allowance. Again, left, right, let's see. I'll start with that and do 5.50 will give me a 1/4 inch with my J-foot. And I'll do a little back stitch here. And I am going to need my stiletto. All right. So I'm going to trim this part off on both ends, and you can trim it down, obviously to your 1/4 inch, but you can also use pinking shears around the outside edge if you have them. It'll make it how it turns. It'll be will be an easier turn because you will be taking out some of the bulk. So let's try that one. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of a lot of this excess. I don't want to drag all of this around with me, so I'll just cut this part off. I have a pair of pinking shears here. And I hope that you can see that if you're one of these that really enjoys little throw pillows for decor, that you could use this whole concept to do whatever you wanted. You could, instead of sewing the flowers that are on the Kimberbell one, you could always put your own favorite design in there. All right, so now I'm going to use a pair of pinking shears. You do not want to cut your stitching line. So just trim up to, but not through the stitching line. Figured I got the zipper already right out of at the starting point there. Doesn't have to look pretty. The idea of using pinking shears on this is just to eliminate some of the bulk so that when I turn it, I get a better turn, because it's not just a wider seam trying to squish into a skinnier area. This kind of releases some of the fabric. And I can see that these pinking shears really need to be sharpened. They're doing the job, though. There's the other zipper. All right, I'm just going to get that pressed and we'll turn her around. All right, trimmed and pressed. Let's turn it right side out. See how nice that is? When you actually trim some of the excess out with pinking shears, you get a much nicer turn. Oh, how cute. All right, let's put the pillow in. Spread it out a little bit here. All right, look at how dang cute that is. That is just so cute. Anyway, this is our pillow. And some extra fluff here with some, let's see, a couple of little gathering strings that are still sticking out. All right, there we go.